Inviting me for pronouncing my name correctly, that's rare, and also for bringing me in from the airport, of course. It was really a joy. I like small children, and I can easily, and my wife as well, so that was no problem. I'm going to talk about a book I wrote, which is called Global Democracy, The Case for a World Government, which came out from Edinburgh University Press in 2008. And it came as the result of a research project I was involved in, and the name of the research project was Democracy Unbound. We worked together, legal scholars, philosophers, political scientists, and so on. How do I change? Here. So this is the book, and I'm going to strike a rather optimistic note at the beginning of my talk here, but beware, I'm ending on a very pessimistic. But the thesis of this book is that global democracy is both feasible and desirable in its own right. It's feasible as I designed a roadmap that could gradually and peacefully move us towards this idea of a global democracy. And desirable, yes. Famous philosophers such as Immanuel Kant and Torbjorn Rawls, with the veil of ignorance we heard about earlier today, have argued against this idea of a world government. I think they're wrong. So the starting point of this research project was when the American political scientist Robert Dahl has complained that political scientists have not been interested in what he called the boundary problem. We're interested in whether we should have democracy or not, arguments for and against, and what it means more precisely to have democracy. But the problem, who should be in the demos and be allowed to take part in the decisions, had not been theorized by political scientists, he claimed. And then came another theorist, Frederick Wieland, who said that, well, that's no coincidence, because that's the kind of problem you can't solve within democracy. I mean, you can't vote to decide who is supposed to be allowed to vote. If Iceland should be divorced from Denmark or not, who should have a vote on such an issue? It's not possible to solve it like that. But then the idea came up here that we could perhaps articulate some political principles that could advise us. It's more like applied ethics. You have the principles, you have the empirical realities, and you try to come to a conclusion about how you should delineate what kind of substances you should have practicing democracy. So that was the starting point, and here are three principles that were discussed. The all-affected principle, those who are affected by a decision should take part in it. Bob Goodin, one of the political philosophers in the project, argued from this all-affected principle to global democracy. Several people in this project came to be believers in global democracy when they had worked in this project. But then the all-affected principle also seems to say that if you have no stakes in a question, you should have no vote at all. But then if you have more stakes than others, should you not have more votes as well? This is not a very democratic principle, but then you have this proportionate idea that the French economist Marc Fleurbaix came to advocate in this research project. So we had this kind of discussion going on, and here the idea is that you have a formal argument, you have some kind of democratic principle, you have this fact of globalization. So this is how Bob Goodin tended to argue. All affected people should be involved, but everyone is practically involved to some extent in any decision. So hence you should have global democracy. He also gave an argument why it will happen. It's irresistible, this movement towards global democracy. Very nice argument, but perhaps a bit too optimistic, I'd say. Well, this was not the kind of argument I practice. I don't think that these principles, perhaps there are people in the audience who believe, for example, in the order factor principle. I think it's false, or at least at best it's a rule of thumb, which means that it could perhaps end up in the conclusion of an argument, that it could be the premises of a moral argument, explaining why we should do certain things. Okay, this is complication beyond what I need for my talk now, because my approach was much more simplistic and looked like this. I argued in 2 steps in my book, this book, which is now hopelessly dated. I argued in 2 steps. The first one was that we need a world government in order to obviate certain collective existential threats, and exactly those threats that we have been discussing here at this conference. We can't deal with these kinds of problems unless we resort to a global government, I claim. And also, I wanted, if possible, that this world government should also be democratic. So I sketched a roadmap towards global democracy, as I said. But really, what it carries most of the argumentative burden in my argument is the first idea, I guess, that we need a world government. And this is something that seems to turn into problems today, I think. Problems I really didn't see then. But the idea then is that we want to obviate war, and then we won't have refugees anymore. We should proceed in analogy with how peace in a well-ordered nation-state has been established. I mean, we have a monopoly on the use of force on the global level, and we could do away with wars. And those existential threats, for example, stemming from nuclear weapons. And if we want to achieve global justice, well, the idea is that those problems that we have been discussing here, why are the differences widening? Well, it has to do with globalization, with nation states competing with one another in a global anarchy, competing for favors from big business. So it's unavoidable that the differences will widen in such a system. But if we had a global government, we could fix regulations that it's not a matter of really creating a global welfare state, but at least you could have some kind of regulation stopping this nasty competition between nation states for favors from those big business companies. And of course, to create a sustainable environment was also an important problem here. And I will focus now on global heating. Well, that's a word we should use according to standard practice, not warming, heating. Well, it does pose an existential collective threat to humanity. I think we agree about this. Those of us who are in this room, at least, judging from the discussion that we have had. But then now, my empirical claim is that we can't obviate this problem unless we resort to world government. And I will briefly explain why I think it is like this. But it is possible to obviate it if we resort to world government. I mean, the question that raised over and over again here is, what should we do about it? Now I should tell you. The problem is that the global heating is an example of the tragedy of the common. It's a collective decision problem, which is very simple in a way, but very difficult to handle in practice. The problem is that no one can be excluded from a sustainable environment. It is a common good. I mean, if we have climate that is sustainable, then everyone can take part in it. We can't exclude anyone. It's costly to sustain the environment. It costs nothing for an individual where she doesn't contribute. Her own effect on the environment is negligible from her own individual position. I don't destroy the environment in any noticeable way that I could myself notice by flying here, for example, from Stockholm. And that's true to a large extent also of nation states. So you, everyone, every nation state, want all the others to contribute, but avoiding contributing yourself. And that this is not silly, this is individually rational behavior. But the problem is that if each individual succeeds in behaving in a rational way, they all end up in a worse situation than if they were stopped from being individually rational. It's similar to the prisoner's dilemma logic, then, which we also hear a lot about. It was detected at the same time, roughly in the 50s. You want all the others to contribute, but avoid contributing yourself. Free riding must then be punished if you want to avoid it. But then you must have some kind of authority capable of punishing those who free ride. It requires a powerful collective authority over government. Well, couldn't we negotiate in a way that Kant fancied about when it came to war and peace, and so you have a peace treaty, and independent nation states agree to abide by certain regulation. Well, that's what we seem to hope for with global eating, isn't it? We had those conferences in Paris, in Copenhagen, in Katowice. But it doesn't seem to work. And if I'm correct here in my diagnosis, it shouldn't work. Because it is this kind of decision problem, collective decision problem, where everyone stands to gain by wanting the others to contribute as much as possible, but yourself contributing as little as possible. When we have this Elinor Ostrom economist arguing that there are informal solutions sometimes to this tragedy of the common problems, but if you look on the requirements that must be satisfied in order for this to work, you see directly that it has no implications for this global situation that we are in, this full-scale situation where every nation is in. So then we need this global government, and again, I would like it to be democratic, and that was what I argued for in my book. We should mold the world in this direction and end up in a situation where we have both global government and global democracy. But now I'm beginning to wonder, is there time enough? And now I'm close to the ending of this discussion, and now I leave this optimistic note I started on, and I'm approaching the pessimistic one. Climate science claims timing is almost, at best, up. Could even be up. We don't know about threshold effects and so, but if we want to keep hope, we should work on the assumption that time is not up, but it's almost up. And the emissions increase, they don't decrease, increase. The levels of greenhouse gases also increase. We're pushing ourselves to the steep. And then I come to think, and this might be a bit provocative, it's both a hope and perhaps a speculation about the possible future. When the situation is visibly terrible, for example, when the West Antarctic ice breaks and the sea levels suddenly rise a lot, perhaps there are some politicians happen to be in a position that they can seize power. I think of the Security Council of the United Nations, for example. I think of the people constituting this organization. Perhaps these people can seize the possibility and do something about it. Or not. And then despair. Even if we would go via a situation of global despotism instead of global anarchy. It's not that we replace democracy with despotism. It's the global anarchy that we replace in that case with despotism. We could still work for this idea of global democracy, of course, in the long run, and hope that those wise guys will save us before it's too late. That's my hope. And I should just add one more thing on a rather bizarre philosophical note. There is, of course, one kind of hope held out by many of my colleagues, philosophers. There are quite a few of them, and there's a tradition dating from Socrates up to our days, claiming that it's not a big deal whether we survive or not. Perhaps the strongest argument in defense, unless this would come as some sort of consolation, perhaps, the strongest argument to this effect is this one. There's bound to be one generation which is the last one. We can't help that. I mean, the sun will turn into a white dwarf, and there is a last generation. It doesn't matter when it comes. The only thing is that it should be as happy ending as possible. And afterwards, there is no one who could complain about it. the Finnish-Swedish philosopher Johannes von Wright, who succeeded Wittgenstein as professor in Cambridge, gave this argument when we discussed these things. He said it's a pipa snus, a pipe of what is it in English? Well, an expression indicating that it doesn't matter really if humanity ends. But that's not the kind of consolation that I would like to have. I would like it to go on for quite a while. And then, I'm sorry to say, my hope now is that some wise people will step in before it's too late. And then we will continue our work in defense of global democracy. Thank you.